How we doing, everybody? Welcome to the first recording of Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Podcast will be released Monday through Friday, talking everything Wisconsin sports. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. If you guys have listened to Trage and KJ's locker room chats, also a part of that. Moving off into a little bit of just strictly Wisconsin sports for you guys. Today we will be covering some Brewers talk, previous series, everything like that. Packers preseason coming up here against the Bengals. We're going to cover the preseason game, get over the roster, and see who's all on it. Then we're going to get into a little bit of Bucks news and some Badger news to top it off for the day here. So happy to be here with you guys. We're going to start with the Brewers. 2 out of 3 from the Rockies here, and a very impressive game one win they had, 12-1. They took care of the Rockies. Only gave up one hit. One hit in that entire game for the Rockies. Tovar took Freddie Peralta deep. Besides that, Freddie looked solid. It was good to see out of Freddie Peralta. 7 innings, one hit, one run, one earned, 13 Ks. I mean, he looked good. And then the bullpen game came in. Paguero, 2 strikeouts, and Chafin finished it out with a strikeout. So it was a good game one win, 12-1. Brewers took care of them. In that game, Yelich went 2 for 3. Other notables in there: Contreras 3 for 5, and then we had Frelick 2 for 3. He had a big 3-run home run. Frelick has been looking good. Frelick has been hot, and I think he can be a guy to transition into center field. I know right away they talked when they got Mark Canha that we would see a lot more Frelick in center field and Canha in right. I don't think they trust Canha's glove as much out there in right field as they do a Sal Frelick and having Joey Weimer in center. Otherwise, I think they may have pulled that trigger already. Canha has been looking a little bit better with the bat as of late in these past couple games. We'll cover that here in the second 2 games of this series. But I got to say, between the rookies this season for the Brewers, looking at Frelick and now Terang is starting to heat up too. 1 for 3 in that game. He had a big, he had 2 RBIs for the Crews. Frelick finished with 4 RBIs, Contreras with 3. So a great all-around effort from the Crew. Tyrone Taylor sneakily has been heating up too. We'll cover him and Terang here actually in a minute. But they've been looking good. And like I said, the Rockies just held down some big strikeout numbers for Freddie, Paguero, and then Chafin even had a strikeout to finish it out. So a good-looking game one there from the Brewers. They actually roughed up Lambert, and then they roughed up Seabold coming out of the bullpen for 7 runs. So impressive work hitting the starter and then coming in at the bullpen after that. Looking at their next game, game 2 of that series, they actually lost 7-3 in 10 innings. That was an offensive struggle. And that's what we're getting with this Brewers team right now, especially on the offensive side. We're getting outbursts. We saw it against the Pirates, 14-1 or 14 to whatever it was there. I can't remember off the top of my head here. 14-1, yeah. 14-1 game there. And then you look at that second game of the series there, and they actually lost it 8-4. So just they had the offensive explosion, then the offense cools down right away. They can't keep a consistent offense coming out there on the field. And going in that second game, 3 runs pushed across. They actually had to push one across in the seventh, one in the sixth, and one in the fourth to tie it up there, and then went into the 10th. And the Rockies poured on 4 runs in the top half, and the Brewers did not have that answer for that. Chafin did struggle in that game. Looking at our box for that game, Wade Miley looked good. He's fresh off injury, coming back here for this game. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 2 hits, 2 Ks, and 3 walks, 1 home run given up. I don't knock Miley for that game, and I know a lot of people are really questioning what Craig Counsell does with these pitchers and why he pulls them so soon. I saw the Miley. He has left Miley in there for too long. We've seen Miley get injured. I think Counsell's trying to push the red button. He's trying to keep Miley healthy for as long as he can. He knows he's aging. He knows he's got injury problems. So if he can get 6 solid innings, you hope that after 6, you can turn it over to that bullpen. Paguero, Chafin, Pompous, Devin Williams, Hobie Milner, those guys can get it done for you. And that's the hope that he's going with right now, especially pulling Wade Miley after 6. I can see where people are upset. Wade Miley was pitching a great game. And it sucks to have to see him go out like that and to actually have a no decision in a game that he should have been set up for the win. But looking at what they had coming in after him, Paguero, Pompous, and Devin Williams, Paguero had a rough inning there, 2 home runs given up. You usually don't see that out of a guy like Paguero. He was leaving his pitches up, and that's what we saw there. And then we look at Pompous coming in next. He pitched an inning, great baseball again. And then Devin Williams came in for the ninth. And then Chafin struggled in the 10th inning there. He gave up 4 runs, 3 earned, 2 walks. And then Uribe actually ended up coming in and saving Chafin there and getting out of that inning there unscathed. So a rough game two. But that's looking at the hitting side of it there. We talked about the offensive explosion in game one. You roll over to game two, and you have Yelich leading off. He had a hit. Contreras only had a hit. Pena had a hit. And then Monasterio, 3 hits. Weimer, 2 hits. And Brian Anderson, 1 hit. Besides that, everybody else hitless in that game. So that's where they struggle. This offense, they all go where nobody goes. And 2 straight games with no Willie Adames in there. We were hoping maybe that gets his head right. And that's kind of what they're going for right now. Terang's playing good enough right now where we can kind of test the waters and maybe see if giving Willie some time off, maybe throw him in the DH role. Don't have him out in the field. Don't have that pressure of playing the field, and just let him hit. Let him get into the lineup. Couple of days as the DH and just see what happens. But looking at that game right now, right there, it was a struggle for the Brewers. They actually out hit the Rockies in that game 9-6, but the struggle came from the walks there in the 10th that led to those 4 runs for the Rockies. Then looking at our game three of the series, the Brewers actually just won that 7-6 in extra innings again in 10. Andrew Monasterio hit the quote unquote walk off. It was a ground ball to short, mishandled a little bit on the throw, and that scooped up. So it was a walk-off. Nonetheless, the Brewers picked up the win. That's what we like to see, is somehow, some way, pick up that win and just move on. And Canna delivered. The Rockies actually scored in the top half of the 10th. Canna came in, hit a double, scored in a run, brought him in, and that made it 6-6. And then the final was 7-6 on that Monasterio air that we would call. But it was still a good game, good win for the Brewers, good series win for the Brewers. Yelich finished with 2 hits. Good to see Yelich is still rolling in the top half right now, still batting 290. He had a couple of Ks, or 3 Ks actually, in the final game of the series. But it's good to see Yelich up there at that 290 average. I just wish we could see him climb up to 300 again. He flirts around with 292, but then he drops back down to 280s before he comes back up. So Yelich looking good. Contreras, he struggled today, but then we look at Mark Canha. He had that clutch double. Frelick 1 for 5. Adames, big home run there. And then Monasterio, we're looking at a power surge on a Monasterio. Back-to-back days with a home run. He went 2 for 5 for the Crew. He's sitting at a 290 mark. And then Bryce Terang, batting 226 now. He's brought that average up. He's sitting at, he was 2 for 3 today, actually, with a walk. So he's looking a little bit better. And then Tyrone Taylor, 185 average. It's tough to look at Tyrone and say he's been hitting better, because you look at his average and you say this guy's not hitting worth a darn. But you look at that 185 average where he started to where he is now. 185 is actually an improvement, and we're seeing him kind of tick upwards. He's been getting hits, he's been getting on for the Brewers, and that's what we love to see. If he can keep it up, that's what the next waiting, the stepping stone is for Tyrone, is to see if he can keep it up here for the next couple weeks. Good to see though. Santana did return for the third game of the series. He was out for game two with an illness. Not really sure what was going on. Joey Weimer was scratched for the lineup, but they did say that was just a stomach virus. Hopefully to have him back here for the upcoming series. We'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated on it. But pitching wise for that game, Hauser, he didn't pitch terrible. He had a decent effort. 4 runs, 4 earned, 5 hits, 5 innings, 5 Ks. Not a terrible outing for Hauser. It's kind of what I expect from Adrian Hauser. He's going to give up runs. I would say 2 to 4 a game at best. His best games, maybe 2, but he's going to give up runs. He's not a dominant starter, but he's a consistent starter. He's going to be that guy to give you 4-run ball. The offense has just got to pick him up. The bullpen looked good, though. Milner followed him with, gave up a run, but then Uribe came in. He's been pitching solid. Got his ERA down to 1.46 right now. He came in for 2/3 of an inning. Pompous came in after him, and then Devin Williams came in the ninth, followed by Bryce Wilson, who gave up that run in the 10th inning, which turned out to be a not terrible thing for the Brewers. They ended up winning it there in the bottom of the 10th. So a good series win for the Brewers, but still offensive struggles. And those offensive struggles have been, everybody knows it. Everybody can see it. That's why I think a lot of the NL Central teams didn't sell at the deadline was because they saw the Brewers were still struggling at the top and they weren't worried about the Brewers pulling away with this division. They still thought they had a chance. The Reds, the Cubs, even the Pirates. I mean, the Pirates are still hanging. The Cardinals aren't terribly far back. I always worry about the Cardinals. I really do. I just got a feeling they're going to find some spark and it's going to boost them up. Now, looking at it right now, I haven't seen that boost yet, so thank goodness. But it always happens with them Cardinals. They always seem to find us, and they always seem to be right on our tails come the end of the season. And some series at the end there, maybe that couple series against them in September, late September, are going to be big series for the Brewers and the Cardinals. But we will wait and see with that. Looking at our upcoming schedule here, little bit of a series preview. They're going to have the White Sox coming up on Friday. Looking at this White Sox series, game one, it looks like Corbin Burns will get the ball for the Brewers. He will face off with Kopech from the White Sox. Uh, Looks to be a winnable series for the Brewers. The White Sox struggling this season. Their biggest spark of the season was Tim Anderson fighting Jose Ramirez. So I would expect the Brewers win here, though. And then we're looking at game two of the series. Woodruff will get the ball for the Brewers, and he will face off against Schultens from the White Sox. And then in game three, Freddie Peralta will get the ball for the Brewers. So the Brewers rotation is back. They're back. We have Burns followed by Woodruff followed by Peralta. That is what you want to see is that this Brewers rotation, the three-headed monster we expected to see all season at the start of the season is back with Woodruff back in his normal spot there right behind Burns and Peralta following him up. So that's huge for the Brew Crew. Glad to see it. And I gotta say, watch out for Monasterio right now. We talked about a little bit earlier, but he is finding his power stroke. Like we said, 2 home runs in that last series for the Brewers, back-to-back days with a home run. That's what we love to see out of Andrew Monasterio. I'm hoping that with that, the he just continues. He's found his power stroke. He's been a contact hitter so far this season for the Brewers, and you can't knock this Brewers team. Really needs the contact out of Andrew Monasterio because of the struggle of the rest of the team and the rest of the lineup. But with that, hopefully, if he continues to find that power stroke and just continues to roll at the plate right now at a 290 average, he's been hot for the Brewers team so far. He was an unexpected guy. We didn't really know much about or hope for much when he came up out of the minor leagues for the Brewers coming into this season. And right now, in 145 at bats, he's sitting at a 290 average, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases, a 782 OPS. You cannot knock what he's been doing at the plate. In his last 7 games, he's batting 296. Last 15, he's at 286. And in his last 30 games, he's actually a 306 hitter. So impressive work out of Andrew Monasterio. I don't think there's a way you can send him down, but I have watched that so far this season. I didn't think there was a way, the way that Abraham Toro was hitting when he was up for the Brewers, that we were going to ship him back down to the minor leagues. But we did. Monasterio, or not Monasterio, but Toro has been hitting. He hasn't been hitting bad for the Brewers when he comes back up. So far this season, he's got a 444 average and 18 at bats. I'm pretty sure he has 8 hits for the Brewers, 2 home runs, and 9 RBIs, a 1.278 OPS. I don't understand. Ride the hot hand. He's hot. 2 home runs and 18 at bats, 9 RBIs, a 444 average. Let him stay. Let him ride. Let's see what happens with a guy like Abraham Toro at the major league level. He can play third base. He can play first base. He's a proven guy to hit for you right now, as he's shown in the little time he's gotten. Let him have it. Let him ride with it. See what happens. But instead, we just sit with guys. We sit with Brian Anderson, who has been struggling. I love Brian Anderson. I love his glove out there in the field, but I cannot handle his bat in the lineup right now. He's an inconsistent hitter for this Brewers team. They have to find consistency. That's what they need. And I think a guy like Abraham Toro was bringing that to the Brewers, but he was not given the opportunity when he was up to really explode, to really let his offense show what he was made of. I mean, yeah, looking at his record, his career regular season average, 211. He was a struggling hitter. But you look at a guy like Christian Yelich before he came to the Brewers and put up those two MVP seasons for the Crew. He wasn't that MVP caliber guy. We didn't expect that out of him. So those couple down years when we were like, what the heck is wrong with him? We wouldn't have expected that if the two previous seasons he hadn't won or been in the conversation for an MVP. Same with Abraham Toro here. His career average doesn't show up, but his regular season average for the 2023 season, that shows that a guy who is hot needs a shot in the lineup and just let him roll with it. And if he got cold, then you worry, then you send him down. Then you fluctuate with that. But they don't give shots to the hot hitter. They keep trying to ride with Adames, or they keep trying to ride with Brian Anderson, or even when Joey Weimer's struggling, or Bryce Terang was struggling. We just let it ride. We like to leave them in there and just, we'll see what happens. We'll hope that they get hot. Well, at some point, you got to stop hoping and just ride the hot hand. And I think that Abraham Toro needs to be called back up to the Brewers at some point here. He's been hitting great down in AAA for the Brewers this season. Looking at his minor league stats right now, he is sitting at a 288 average right now down in AAA Nashville. The average switches. He goes down to AAA where he's got a lot more at bats. He's still sitting around a 300 hitter. You bring him up to the majors, you give him those at bats. He's sitting at a 444 average right now. Yeah, would he not sit above 400 for the rest of the season? I know. I agree with that. But I still think he was hot, and we did not give him that shot to stay up. He hit against the Braves. He was hitting against the Braves. We decided that wasn't good enough. We need to bring in Carlos Santana. We need to work with this lineup even more. This is a guy who deserves a shot at the major league roster. Even a guy like Owen Miller. I don't understand when Owen Miller was demoted back to AAA. I know he was struggling in the month of July. He was struggling, and they decided this was the move. We moved him down to AAA. He's 5 for 15 right now. He's got 4 doubles down there in AAA. He's got 2 RBIs, 1 walk, and he's got 1 strikeout and a 333 average. He's still producing in 4 games. He's still producing. 4 games, 4 doubles. He's producing at the AAA level. We don't have that guy in the major leagues right now. We have Brian Anderson. We are letting Brian Anderson sit. We're letting Willie Adames sit right now. There's not much you can do with Willie. No options. I get that one. Tyrone Taylor, if he starts to cool off, do you call Owen Miller back up, or do you continue to let Tyrone Taylor sit in this lineup? Because it's been proven we will just let guys sit in the major league level just because we can't get rid of them. If we designate them for assignment, they're gone. Well, you might have to at some point because right now this offense is what is killing the Brewers team. And I try to look for the positives. I really do. But right now with this Brewers team, the offense is killing this team. But with that, I will get into what is going on with like Bryce Terang. Bryce Terang is heating up for the Brewers right now. In his last 7 games, he's got a 471 average for the Crew, 1 home run, 8 hits. He's got 4 walks in that span, no strikeouts, and 3 stolen bases, and a slugging percentage of 647. Bryce Terang in the last 7's been hot. Even in his last 15 to last 30, last 15 games, he's got a 341 average, 2 home runs, and in his last 30, he's got 2 home runs in there, 22 hits, and 16 walks, and a 272 average. This Bryce Terang this Bryce Terang can play shortstop for the Brewers every single day. If he keeps producing at the plate, let him in the lineup. And then I would love to see Andrew Monasterio, a guy who has been playing some good ball at third base. He's made some great plays. He's made some blunders too. He's made some great plays. I'd love to see him shift over to second base. And then if you don't think Brian Anderson can fully get back and his offense is going to stay inconsistent, move him to the bench, find one of your 15 outfielders. There's only 6, but there's a lot of outfielders on this roster right now. If Blake Perkins can go down, bring Owen Miller back up, bring Abraham Toro back up, implement them at third base, let it ride, and just watch the offense. Owen Miller and Abraham Toro could be a boost to this Brewers offense, the boost that they need. They need a consistent bat in there, and Abraham Toro was consistent when he was up. And Owen Miller, though his struggle in July was pretty good, he was a great bat for the Brewers before that. He was hot before that. He was a 300 hitter. Owen Miller, bring him back up, implement him at third. And if you don't trust Owen Miller's glove or arm over at third base, put him at second, put Monasterio at third. There's your infield right there. Terang at short, Monasterio at either second or third, and then Toro, Miller, one of those two playing third base or second base. Those guys right there, that would be a solid infield. Then you mix in Willie Adames. You have him coming off the bench, maybe in that DH role. Maybe the DH role gets Willie Adames going. And if Willie Adames gets going, then you put him back at short, you move Terang to second, your middle of the infield solid again. But right now with Willie Adames consistently in that lineup, he's bringing his glove to the party. He's not bringing a bat, he's bringing his glove. And you don't want that. You have too many hitters in your lineup right now that are only bringing defense to the party. We need bats. This offense is inconsistent. The defense is great. The defense is great. They can play good ball, but we need bats behind them. And that's where I think with Abraham Torre and Owen Miller, those are two guys that could come up and fill in that third base role. Move Terang to short. Well, the other one, Monasterio, either third or second, and that solidifies that offense and that infield for the Brewers. The next question, what do you do with Rowdy? He's coming back at some point here. What are you going to do with Rowdy Tellez when he comes back? Because you're going to have to clear a roster spot for him. Is his bat worth clearing that roster spot, or do you just designate him for assignment on his path back? Do you just say, Rowdy, we need to go a different direction? We have Carlos Santana now. We have Abraham Toro sitting in the minors. He can play first base. We have Mark Canha. We don't need a bat like yours right now. Or is he the potential guy to be that DH guy for you? It's one of those wait and see, but the Brewers front office, with their moves, what they're making right now, sometimes they really do confuse me. So it is truly a wait and see what happens with them. The influence of the rookies this season has been crazy. Looking at Sal Frelick, Bryce Terang, Joey Weimer, even a guy like Andrew Monasterio, Blake Perkins, Abner Uribe coming out of the bullpen. Just huge numbers they are putting up, and they are the engine that makes this go. You look how many walk-offs these rookies have already. You look at the amount of big moments they've been in. Abner Uribe coming out of the bullpen, he's been solid so far. Sal Frelick is putting up numbers that haven't been put up since Paul Molitor. I mean, this offense is just crazy for the Brewers right now. And I just I don't know if you ride with the veterans much longer with all these rookies hitting like they are, playing the field like they are. Can you really ride with the veterans, or should you turn it over to the rookies and just let them roll? That's one of those big questions that this front office has to really diagnose and really try to see, especially going into this next offseason with Willie Adames. And the struggle with Willie Adames is that he's struggling in his contract year, a year that you want him to either be a make or a break guy. He's breaking. And not many teams are going to be looking for that breaking right now. And that's the problem with Willie Adames. So hopefully his bat starts to find it. Maybe he comes back to the Brewers, or maybe you can find a suitor for him out there in the trade market. I don't know how that will all unfold. But right now, I am really impressed with these rookies on this team. And Freddie Peralta has been better as of late. I've always known him as a one-inning blow-up guy. If he wouldn't blow up one inning every game, he would throw a no-hitter. No doubt in my mind. He could throw 6 innings for me, and in that one inning, he's going to give up 4 runs. Couple homers, whatever it is, he's going to give up 4 runs. But in that other 5, no-hit baseball, complete strikeouts, just dominance. And Freddie just needs to in that one inning, just settle down a little bit. I don't know what it is with Freddie. I don't know what tips his pitches that inning or what goes on with his location, but it really does home him back in when he gives up those few runs. It really does bring him back to earth, and then he starts to pitch again. He starts to roll again. So if he can just put a complete effort together, like looking at that Rockies game, besides one bad pitch to Tovar, he had 13 Ks and one hit was the home run. So no hits besides that. So an impressive game out of Freddie Peralta there. And that is about it for our Brewer talk for this episode. We will look at the Packers next. And the Packers here, we have them coming up against the Bengals. And that game will take place. on tomorrow, or will take place on Friday night, 6 p.m. against the Bengals. Looking at our roster there for game one, it looks like we did shorten up our QBs. Sean Clifford, Jordan Love, and Alex Magoo will be in the quarterback room for the Packers this season. A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones have the two solid running backs for the Packers again, ready to go. Looking at our wide receiver room, in our wide receiver room right now, we have Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Samori Torre, and Jaden Reed, some of the bigger names in that wide receiver room for the Packers. Looking at our offensive line, the big name coming back, David Bakhtiari. Can we keep David Bakhtiari and even Elton Jenkins? Can we keep those two healthy for the entire season? That's what we're waiting to see. Hopefully, and I really hope that those two can stay healthy because that solidifies that offensive line for the Packers. Looking at our tight ends, Tucker Kraft at tight end and Luke Musgrave, two of the bigger name guys coming out of the draft there for the Packers. Hopefully, those guys like a Luke Musgrave and Kraft, hopefully those guys can produce for the Packers right off the bat. And then looking at our defense, Kenny Clark returns as defensive tackle this season along with Devontae Wyatt, looking for a breakout season in his second season from Devontae Wyatt. Looking at our linebacker room, Rashawn Gary was returned off of the PUP list. Not sure when he'll be ready to go. It's looking like it could be potentially week one, but realistically, it looks like it's going to be after the bye week, after the Broncos. So maybe the Broncos game. Hopefully, week one would be great to get a guy like Rashawn Gary back. Looking at our other linebackers there, Devondre Campbell. He's another solid guy in there for you, a veteran in there in the linebacker room. So hopefully he's ready to go. And a guy like Quay Walker, too. Looking at Quay Walker, hopefully he put everything in the past, everything that happened last season, the few times that he got out of line. He really did get out of line, and he knows that. And he came out and he talked about that, and he said it's been biting at him. So hopefully, Quay Walker, a little cleaner season, and we can keep him on the field. Great rookie season last year for him. He had sparks. There was moments where you could see he was a rookie, and then there was moments where you saw that spark and that little bit of, holy crap, this is what we got for the future right here. What to expect out of Lucas Van Ness is yet to see. He's been looking good in training camps for the Packers, so hopefully Lucas Van Ness is a big factor for the Packers. I don't think he'll start, but I think he could be a huge factor for him. And then Preston Smith, veteran linebacker, coming back for his age 30 season. Uh, Another veteran in there in the linebacker room, and he can really show these guys the ropes and really try to keep guys under wraps. And then we're looking out at our cornerback room right now. Jair Alexander, Ford's back. Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes, Rudy Ford, and yeah. So that's about it for the bigger name cornerbacks for the Packers right now. Looking to see big things out of that cornerback room, especially with a guy like Alexander coming back and Stokes is back. I hope that he returns and is ready to go. This linebacker room looks good, and hopefully they're a shutdown defense because that is what this young Packers offense is going to need is a little boost from that defense. And then looking out there at the safeties, Darnell Savage back for another season here. So hopefully with the safeties, between the safeties, cornerbacks, hopefully they can slow down some of these high octane passing offenses out there and let the linebackers and your D tackles eat. I mean, you have some great linebackers in Campbell, Rashawn Gary, and then having Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt coming up the middle. Hopefully that really sparks this Packers offense, seeing the defense roll like that. And a big question mark for the Packers has been the kicker, Andrews Carlson. He's been struggling in practice so far. So hopefully going into the preseason here, he finds his stride and comes out and he just has a great season for the Packers. Otherwise, they might have to make a phone call to Mason Crosby and ask him to come back for one more until we can find a new kicker. Because looking at him in some of their training camp, he was a little bit rough, a little bit rusty. So maybe it was just jitters. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But we will wait and see. But with this Packers offense, I'm really looking at this wide receiver room. Our Christian Watson Romeo Dobbs and Jane Reed, are those is it going to be enough? Is it enough at wide receiver? And I truly do think that they're missing a veteran presence in that wide receiver room. A guy like, and I know he's gone to the Jets now, but Randall Cobb, somebody, a veteran that can kind of be your in a pinch guy. Everybody had that in a pinch guy. Maybe Christian Watson develops into that in a pinch guy for Jordan Love. I mean, you look at like in the past with Aaron Rodgers, he had Jordy Nelson, he had Devontae Adams. You look at like Tom Brady, even he had Julian Edelman. Who is going to be Love's guy? Who is going to be that safety blanket that when he needs to make a throw, who is going to step up and be that guy? I think Christian Watson could. I think Romeo Dobbs could develop into that guy, but I think they're missing a veteran presence. I know they have it in the backfield there with Aaron Jones, and he goes out at split a lot, so maybe he could implement that into the wide receiver room. But I really do think a veteran wide receiver would not be a bad thing for this Packers team to pick up. And just have a guy to show these rookies a little bit more, show them the ropes a little bit more, and just help them through the transitions into this next season. Another big thing, they were talking about Jordan Love. He's going to play in the preseason, but what is too much for Jordan Love to be playing? And I think that's a good question. What is too much for Jordan Love? Game one, I couldn't see him more than a quarter or two. You don't want to risk Jordan Love's health in these first preseason games here leading up into that week one game. If you get Jordan Love hurt, you look like an idiot. If Jordan Love comes out week one against the Bears and he's rusty, you look like an idiot for not giving him too much time. So there's a lot of Matt LaFleur's plate right now to really get Jordan Love ready to go, but not using him too much that the injury is a big potential here in the preseason. But we will wait and see what he has in store for us. Look for big things out of Jordan Love. I really do think Jordan Love is up for a good season here. He's looked good in training camps. He's rusty at the beginning. He starts out slow. He's a slow starting quarterback, but once he gets on the ball, once he starts rolling, Jordan Love is a force to be reckoned with. So hopefully with that, Jordan Love looks good in this first preseason game and puts a lot of Packer fans' mind at ease. Another thing with the Packers right now, uh, David Bakhtiari, like we were talking about, can David Bakhtiari play a full season? I think that's going to be a big hinge on what the Packers offense does this season. Is if you have a veteran presence like David Bakhtiari out there week after week. And looking at this, I really do hope that him and Elton Jenkins can hang in there along with Josh Myers in there at center. And that offensive line will look really good. And with that, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon with an offensive line like that in front of them, their mind can be put at ease. Jordan Love's mind can be put at ease. He won't be getting pressured as much. He'll have time in the pocket. And Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, we know they'll have holes then. They won't have to run so far. They won't have to run outside as much. I mean, yeah, design plays run outside. But if it's straight up the middle, you know that David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, those guys clear holes for you. And that's what we're hoping to see. And we're hoping to keep them healthy for this entire season this year. And with that, we will flip over to a little bit of Badger football news. They look like they're debuting at 21 in the coaches poll for this next season. Good news for the Badgers that they are getting highly touted in this next season. I just hope that they live up to the expectation. I know I've seen a lot in the past with Badger sports, basketball, football, like they get really ranked, they get ranked high to start the season, and then all of a sudden they hit a brick wall. They find this unranked team that takes them out, and then they drop out of the rankings. I hope that this Badger team lives up to this hype, and I hope they can climb from there. They're in the top 25. I hope they can climb from there throughout the season because then that week, I believe it's in week 7 there against Ohio. They play Ohio State. That's going to be a huge matchup, top 25 matchup. So I hope to see the Badgers in a top 25 matchup against Ohio State and look for big things out of the Badgers this season. Along with that, Oregon and Washington are set to join the Big Ten along with USC and UCLA. The Big Ten's getting nuts. The competition for Wisconsin's getting nuts. Now you have to see teams like Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA in conference games going out west for those games. You became almost you are going through 3 different time zones now if you're the Big Ten, and I think that could put a struggle on the Big Ten conference teams just having to, I think it really emphasizes home court advantage, having the ability to have that team have to come to you, Oregon coming to Wisconsin for a night game, Wisconsin going to Oregon for a night game, those time changes, everything like that. It's going to affect teams having to play in three different time zones, especially East Coast, West Coast, Midwest to West Coast. I thought the East going east was a bad thing for the Big Ten. And now going to the West, I think it's even worse for the Big Ten. I would like to see the Big Ten just a centralized conference. I would like to see these conference realignments to be conferences centralized within the United States, not so spread out. And another news for the Badgers right now, flipping over to basketball here. Huge transfer portal ad. AJ Storr looks good for Bahamas national team. They played Kansas this last week. He averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds against Kansas, 5 for 12 from the field in the first game, 0 for 6 from deep, but finished with 19 points and a 9 for 10 effort at the line. So big numbers out of him in there in game one. And in game two, he actually finished 5 for 11, 1 for 4 from downtown, 11 points, 2 rebounds. He did he did he looked better in game two than game one. Actually, he shot better from downtown, so that was good to see. But he did not go to the free throw line at all. He didn't draw any fouls. Fouled twice in both games. So good news for the Badgers is that transfer AJ Storr is looking good, especially against a team like Kansas. Hunter Dickinson, great to see him beat the crap out of Hunter Dickinson and get a win there in game two. And then lastly, we are looking at some Bucks news. Bobby looked good in Vegas. He had 11 points in 13 minutes, 3 rebounds, and 1 steal. He had a block too. Bobby Portis looking good. So great news for the Bucks there. Bobby Portis getting out and playing for the USA FIBA team and looking good off the bench for him. So glad to see that out of him. So hopefully with that, he has a great season for the Bucks coming up this next year, and look to see big things out of the FIBA team. But with that, that seems to be all I got for episode one for you guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope I kept you guys entertained for this entire podcast. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with you tomorrow.